Imagine standing on a hill, staring down an army 100 times larger than your own. No reinforcements, no retreat, just 300 exhausted soldiers, facing 30,000 enemies who believed the battle was already won. Distant artillery booms. Wind sweeps across a barren ridge, and yet, these 300 men held their ground, long enough to change the fate of an entire front. This is the defense that should have failed. In early 1942, the war in the East was a storm of chaos. The German advance was slowing, the Soviet counterattacks were only beginning, and every supply line was stretched thin. Somewhere along the Kalinin front, in a sector so small, most commanders ignored it, a disaster was forming. A Soviet force of nearly 30,000 men was pushing west, preparing to punch a hole straight through the thin German line. If they succeeded, the entire flank would collapse, and standing between them and victory was a single battalion. 300 men, undermanned, under-equipped, but not unprepared. The 1st Battalion of the 391st Infantry Regiment, led by Major Friedrich Voldemar, was positioned on a ridge overlooking a frozen valley the Soviets needed to cross. They were tired, frostbitten, running dangerously low on ammunition. But what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in two things: terrain and time, both of which were quickly running out. At dawn, scouts reported movement. Not a patrol, not a reconnaissance team, but an entire Soviet assault group. Thousands of men, forming up in the tree line. Major Voldemar had 20 minutes to prepare for an attack designed to obliterate entire regiments. Most commanders would have pulled back, but retreat meant exposing the flank and letting 30,000 fresh troops surge forward, unopposed. He ordered his men to dig in. The valley erupted in fire, artillery, mortars, machine guns. The ground shook beneath their boots. The Soviets surged forward, a human tide of rifles, submachine guns, and bayonets. Columns of men pushing through waist-deep snow, confident that 300 defenders couldn't stop them. But the defenders held the high ground, and from the ridgeline, every rifle, every MG-42, every grenade counted 10 times more. The first wave shattered against the hill, but the second wave was already forming. Survivors would later say they lost all sense of time. Minutes felt like hours. There was no room to fall back, no backup lines, no reserves. Some fought until their barrels overheated. Some passed ammunition hand to hand. Medics ran through machine gun fire, dragging the wounded through ice and mud. It wasn't discipline alone that kept them fighting. It was the understanding that if they broke, thousands behind them would die. By noon, the situation was desperate. Casualties were rising, ammunition was running low, machine guns were freezing in the bitter cold. And then came the worst news yet. The Soviets were bringing in armor. 34s emerged through smoke, dark shapes cutting across the snow. A battalion of 300 men wasn't meant to fight tanks. But they improvised, mines were planted, anti-tank rifles took position, and every destroyed tank bought them a few more minutes. Minutes that reinforcements desperately needed. Around 3 p.m., the Soviet commander made his final decision. If the ridge couldn't be taken by infantry, it would be drowned in manpower. The largest wave yet, thousands of soldiers, charged across the valley. A wall of men advancing in the open toward a battalion with almost nothing left to fire. And then, the snow behind the ridge erupted. Artillery whistled overhead. German reinforcements had arrived. Columns of infantry, guns, and armor poured in behind the 300. The pressure snapped. The Soviet assault collapsed. And for the first time all day, the ridge was secure. When the smoke finally lifted, fewer than half of the 300 defenders could still stand. Some were wounded, some were unconscious in the snow. Many never rose again. But they held long enough to prevent a breakthrough, long enough for the line to survive, long enough to stop 30,000 men, with only 300. War is often measured in grand strategies and massive armies. But sometimes, history turns on a single position, a single ridge, a single battalion that refuses to break. Their names are scattered across records and forgotten maps, but their stand remains one of the most improbable defenses of the Eastern Front. A reminder of what courage looks like, even when the numbers say you shouldn't survive. If this story moved you, subscribe for more untold World War II histories, battles, heroes, and moments that shaped the world. And tell me in the comments, which forgotten W1 moment should we bring to life next? Fade out, snow, silence, a distant echo of artillery drifting away.